0.03 seconds. That's the difference between becoming an Olympian and not. In that moment, my entire identity collapsed. I wasn't just a skater who lost a race. I was a young girl who didn't know who she was anymore. Today I'm going to share with you how moments like these didn't just test me, but also how they forced me to redefine myself. My story started long before that race. Growing up in Switzerland with a hockey coach as a father, I learned to skate before I could walk. I loved playing hockey. But one day, my grandma, sitting at home in Canada, sent me all these newspaper clippings. She had heard about a speed skater named Cindy Clausen. Cindy played hockey and switched to speed skating. Went on to win 5 medals at the 2006 Olympics. My grandma, sitting at home, thought, I'm going to send these to Switzerland. And with each newspaper clipping, she sent a note that said, I believe you can do this too. So I started speed skating. And after some early success, I started setting high goals, like going to the Olympics and winning medals. I even went so far to name our dog after one of my goals. That's Sochi, after the 2014 Olympic game host city. But at the time, there weren't too many ice rinks in Switzerland, and there wasn't a national team I could train with. So I moved to Holland at the age of 16. At the age of 18, I made history for Switzerland and won 3 medals at the Junior World Championships. What I didn't know at the time was that success builds confidence, but it can also tie your worth to outcomes. But back then, I thought anything was possible. A year later, I competed at the 2014 Olympic trials. And suddenly, the pressure got to me. I was so nervous. I felt the weight of the expectations of my family, my friends, the Swiss Federation. I could barely skate. I was tense. I was only thinking about the outcome that I needed to qualify, instead of just being in the moment and enjoying. That year, the difference between becoming an Olympian was 0.03 seconds. At 18, I didn't have the tools to handle that kind of failure. I felt like I had let everyone down. Everybody invested so much into my skating and into my career. Couldn't deal with that kind of failure. So on my way back to a training center in southern Bavaria, I realized something even worse. I had lost the joy for skating. Just couldn't put my skates back on. So I decided I needed a break. I went as far away as possible, even to another continent, to try and forget skating ever existed. But the heartache didn't disappear. Shortly after, I became depressed. Couldn't even think about putting my skates back on without getting nauseous. So I quit. That was the real setback. Eventually, I got the help I needed to work through that difficult phase. And I had to ask myself a difficult question. Who am I without skating? Eventually, I did some work on my new vision and values. Figured out what was truly important to me, Kaitlyn. At some point, I became a nutritionalist and a yoga teacher. And then I started working for my father, helping him with leadership trainings. And it was inspiring to see others achieve their potential and their dreams. 5 years passed. One day, I was on my way to help my parents with a leadership camp in a small town in southern Bavaria. It was that same town I trained in all those years earlier. And for some reason I still can't explain, I decided to take my speed skates with me. And it took a lot of courage to walk back into that rink. But when I did, I was completely shocked. There was a Swiss national team, 12 athletes, and 3 coaches. This was something I had always dreamed of having as a little girl, but never thought was possible. So I skated a few laps, felt the flow. For the first time in years, I felt at home on the ice. After training, I spoke to the head coach, and he told me that 99% of athletes that take 5 years off never get back to their previous level, let alone exceed it. But if I was serious, 2026 Milan Cortina was realistic. So I shook his hand, made it official. Looking back now, that was truly a life-changing decision. So I fell back in love with skating, this time with a team, support, and a new definition of success. I skated with joy, gratitude in my heart for being given a second chance at pursuing my dream. It wasn't always easy, because that first year, I crashed every single week in the sprint training. But I kept showing up. And 2 years into my comeback, I was good enough to compete at the 2022 Olympic trials. And this time, I exceeded expectations, qualified in 2 distances. 30 people qualify per distance. I ranked 28th and 29th. My family couldn't believe it. We all celebrated, popped a bunch of bottles of champagne at Christmas. And 2 weeks before the Olympics, I got some news. Too many athletes, too many skaters had qualified overall. So they had to cut a few off the back. I was cut. It hurt just as much as the first time. Some people thought I might quit again. But this time, I didn't break. I had the tools, I had the resilience, and I had done enough work on my mental health to keep going. Back when I was 18, I let success and failure define me. But it was that moment that I realized and fully understood that I am more than my results. It's not tied together. I am more. Now, some of you might be wondering, what changed? And honestly, it's hard to pinpoint just one thing. It was a lot of skills, practices, and habits that came together. First of all, having a team that supports one another and builds each other back up when things get hard. I practiced yoga and breath work to become present. Mindfulness, things like affirmations, visualization, seeing myself not only in the future, but also my race perfectly happening as I expected to. And all these things came together. Eventually, my goals changed. That little girl's dream of winning medals, she's still in there. But a deeper goal became achieving my highest potential. 4 years later, it all came together. I competed at the 2026 Olympic trials. And that time, I qualified in 4 distances, ranked high enough I couldn't be cut. And now, 12 years later than I expected, some people call me an Olympian. But what I'm most proud and excited about is the person I've become along the way. I used to think that if I trained hard enough and long enough, skating would get easier. But what I've realized is that skating and life never really get easier. We just get stronger and more resilient. The currents of life might test you, but don't ever let them define you. So wherever you are in life right now, whether you're chasing something, rebuilding something, or questioning everything, keep going. Not because it guarantees success, but because who you're becoming along the way is worth more than any result.